How can you invest and make money in today's real estate market? Welcome to the Successful Investor Show, where we talk with successful real estate investors, business owners, and busy professionals on their journey to wealth. They share their best ways and advice to make massive gains in today's market. Make sure you are subscribed so you never miss an episode. Now, here is your host, Doron Nissim.
Welcome everyone to the Successful Investors Show, where we talk about how to passively invest and create generational wealth. I'm your host, Doron Nissim, and today I have the pleasure of having our guest, Erik Cabral. Hi Erik, how you doing? Good morning.
I'm good, Doron. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining me. Erik has left his corporate America job after 20 years and started investing in real estate, where he bought his first multifamily only after a year. Right now, he's offering capital and to his network of investors for various of projects and looking for opportunities to expand and grow his network in the real estate investing community. His passion, he loves to share his decades of experience in creative and branding and marketing. He's a marketing guru, let's say. He loves helping others leverage the power within the podcasting platform. And he loves helping people in podcasts. So Erik, welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited to have you. How you doing, brother?
Good, man. I'm just blessed to be here. You know, I appreciate the conversation we had a couple of weeks ago. Being a father and a family guy, and just trying to make it through all the times, the good and the bad, and investing in real estate. While we do it. It's good. It's good. I like talking to like-minded people.
Yeah. I was excited to connect with you, and I was excited to hear your story. So tell us, you were in corporate America for 20 years, and then you decided to make a transition to real estate. So what happened?
Yeah, it was over 20 years. It was crazy. Life flashes before your eyes, especially when you get caught up in the rat race and you just start to do the routine. It feels very much like anyone who's ever seen Groundhog's Day with Bill Murray. It's like the day that after the day just keeps happening over and over and over. The alarm clock goes off, you wake up, you get in your car, you drink some coffee. That was me. And it got to a point where I was climbing the corporate ladder and I had success along the way. It took a long time. It took a lot of mental sort of growth for me because I wanted to just stay graphic design. That's what I did. I wanted to do logos and branding and marketing, and I wanted to just stay in my lane. And all my managers would always say, "Hey, Erik, you need to become a manager. You're getting older and you're wiser. Why don't you start managing our teams?" So I finally said yes. And when I got to that point, Doron, I was privy to the numbers. I was privy to the growth. I saw my real contribution, whereas before I was a cog in the machine. Now I got to see the whole machine for what it was. And I got to an opportunity where there was an internal creative agency here in New Jersey, and it was a Fortune 500 company, and they were flat, $500,000 a year. And they said, "What can you do?" And I was like, "I don't know. Let me see what I could do." So with the help of teams and others, I became the creative director and had somebody who was operations, and we grew that to 2.5 million in less than a year. And that's when I realized the power of what I could do, what I'm capable of. It wasn't until I just took the leap of faith. So they were laying me off. Make a long story short, they said, "Thank you, but no thanks. we appreciate everything you did. And what's your name again?" And I was like, "Hey, I thought this was my job. I did my job." But they're like, "We're gonna just farm everything out to Asia, to Ireland." It was another place, and you can lay off the entire team that you built from 5 to 25, and you are the last to leave. You shut the door and the light on the way out. Wow. And I was driving to this job, which was no longer my job. I had 90 days to do it. And I was just listening to books and trying to educate myself. I had an hour and a half commute each way. And it was Robert Kiyosaki that came through the speakers. And Rich Dad, Poor Dad was a story that really resonated. And I felt so stupid, Doron. I was like, wow, all these years, I didn't know anything about, I'm financially illiterate. I don't know anything about legacy and family legacy and wealth and building a portfolio. So I was like angry and just and just frustration was building, but then also inspiration to do something, to make a change, to grow, to provide for my family in a different way that would be more passive over time. So that's when I finally said, that's it. No more corporate America. I'm going to go try to build this. And this was a real estate company called Mindado.
Wow.
And yeah, that's it, man. It's
Wow.
been a journey. It's been a
Talk
journey.
about job security right there.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
always say that. I mean, you don't have any security, and the only security you have is in yourself. And you can invest in the company and build it from ground up and take it to millions and billions and end up one day in nothing, without nothing. So
Yeah, it's all risky, right? I
right.
mean, Jim Rohn is always saying, who was Tony Robbins' coach. It's all risky. You could stay in a job, and try to collect a pension at the end, and there's no guarantees there. But then you lack fulfillment, and that's what I lacked, Doron. It was like I didn't feel fulfilled. I didn't feel like I had a greater purpose. When you're in a big machine, it's
Right.
hard to see like what effect your little piece and your part is doing in the greater whole. So it's kind of nice when you build a business, but then also there's risk too, because 50% of businesses fail in the first year. And I think something like over 90% fail in year 5, and then like 99% fail in year 10. So it's very risky. I'm not saying that there isn't risk. Either way, we stay in corporate or leave it.
Right.
It's up to you, right? It's really what you want to do with your life.
Right. Always invest in yourself there. Always put time to yourself, because that's your biggest investment, I think. Invest in yourself. So, when after you started to do the real estate, when was the point that you said, or learning about real estate, when was the point that you said, I want to do this? This sounds great. I want to do this.
Yeah, I was all in. I think I was listening to Kiyosaki. I was listening to different books, and then I found Bigger Pockets right away.
Mhm.
This was probably 2017. And I started to recognize, I think there was only a couple hundred episodes at the time. And I was looking for local New Jersey, guests. So I was like, how can I find someone that's like, in my neighborhood? And one person that I found that was on the show multiple times, I think he was on maybe 2 times, potentially 3, was Matt Faircloth. And I reached out to him and I said, hey, I'm an investor in the area. I'd love to meet you for some coffee. And he said yes. And then I started to shadow him, not just Matt, but other local real estate investors. I started going to meetups and learning a ton from all these people that were just doing it, doing what I wanted to do. And it became a real thing for me. I was like, oh, wow, because I didn't know anyone that was an investor. I had a second or third cousin in California, and they were like, you don't want to change toilets and locks. It's not fun. That's typically like the first people you hear that aren't doing it successfully, or, to some degree of success, but they don't recommend it. So these guys were doing it, and they seemed to be having fun doing it. So I just surrounded myself with people that were having fun and I could learn from. And I was like, what value can I provide to this lovely, amazing real estate community? And yeah, that's what I did. I just started to my superpower, which is creative, branding, marketing, and all that stuff.
Wow, that's awesome. So you were networking with people around you, and you learn, everything from them, and you saw that they love doing it. So you said, I want to do this. And how can I help them? How can I add value to their business and use your superpowers to help them in their business, which is amazing. I mean, I love that story. Was there like a specific deal that you want to share with us, like an amazing deal that you did?
Yeah. So to give some perspective and better, color around the situation, I had done my first deal in about 8 months, and that was a multifamily close to home, about 15, 20 minutes. And, I did that with the guidance of real estate investor coaches, that I would hire to shadow and just learn from them. And literally we would write on cocktail napkins and diners to analyze deals. So I got confident, comfortable to make our first purchase. And I learned a ton there. I wouldn't say it was easy. There was definitely some tears shed during moments, especially in the winter time when the pipes froze. It was my first, yeah. And then Christmas Day, I had to go out and go figure it out. The tenant had left for I forget where he was originally from, but he left the country and didn't tell me. So anyway, lessons learned, but through that process, I was still networking. I made my way to the front of the room. So I got onto the board of directors for our local RIA.
Wow.
They started to recognize my superpower as being a marketing guy, a podcast. It wasn't a podcast at the time; it was live stream. So I would live stream our events, and I would stand on stage and just like give shine to all the sponsors. So then they started to recognize me as some sort of thought leader, even though I had no experience, Doron. I had very little experience, but the people in the audience were people that are, unfortunately, and I'm one of those and was one of those, you kick tires, right? You want all the information before you make a move, right? You're hesitant because you have fear or whatever the reasons are. I was there. So I get it. But because I had done a deal within 8 months, they were like, hey, talk about your first deal. So that was how I got in front of the room. And then I would start to MC the event. So Matt Faircloth, who was now my friend, was coming to speak, and I was introducing him to the audience before he got on stage. And there was a gentleman in the audience that was there to meet Matt, came up to me after and said, "You're amazing. I love your story. What does your company do again? On Air Brands. Oh my goodness. I need a podcast. Can we do this together? Can you be my co-host? Can you be on the GP of this deal that I'm trying to put together? I don't have a network yet. I need help to raise capital. Can you help me?" I said, yes, yes, yes to all the above. And before I knew it, I was a partner in the second oldest winery in the country, in the United States, called Renault. And that was the biggest, craziest deal, because on that property is not only the second oldest winery, but then also it's got a 50-room hotel and it has a full golf course. So it's pretty wild because I'm the branding guy. So my superpowers came in there because I was like, we need to highlight the fact that this is the second oldest winery. So we are grandfathered in to call sparkling wine champagne. Most wineries cannot do that because of Louis Renault. He literally brought grapes from France, Champagne, France, and then planted them in New Jersey. So we're like one of the only ones that can actually call our sparkling wine champagne. So yeah, till this day, that amazing deal, from a $5 million acquisition, bought it from the bank, is now well north of 30 million in terms of value. So yeah, it's pretty wild. And yeah.
Wow, it's amazing. And it's funny because they always say that marketing is everything and you need marketing in your business, but people don't really take it to heart. They don't really like, especially real estate investors. They'll do some marketing, they'll do here and there. But if you take the marketing to the next level, and that's what you did, you took it to the next level and you brought all these investors that have the experience but no marketing, and you just made it so high and so big. It's amazing. I love that you use your superpowers to expand your real estate career. So it's
well, I recognize something, Doron, in that whenever I would talk to these real estate investors, they were not comfortable with social media. They were not comfortable with putting themselves out there. So I would lead by example and show them what it was like, and then tell them, or not tell them, but just share how you can get comfortable doing this. Just do it. Like start, turn the camera on, turn the mic on. And how would I do that? I would interview them just like this. 6 years ago, I would sit with these investors that weren't accustomed to creating content. And then when they were on my show, I would chop it up. Everyone's doing it now, but at the time, not many people were doing it. I was chopping it up and putting it out there, and they go, "Oh man, I sound amazing. Can you do this for me? Can you create a show for me?" And that was not in the intention of On Air Brands. The intention was it was a traditional marketing agency doing logos, branding, websites, and things like that. And it evolved to become a podcast agency because the market demanded it.
Yeah, now you can see podcasts for real estate everywhere, and those shorts and reels and things. It's like it's everywhere. So that's yeah. So I wanted to ask you: was there like a bad deal or a deal that you wish that you didn't do? Something that you want to share with us that people can learn from your experience?
Yeah, I mean, early on, I'd say within the first few months, then when I started, and this isn't necessary. This is the worst deal because I lost money, but this is par for the course. Like this is expected, so I don't regret it. But I put money down on a single family, 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath, close to home, and I was very eager, right? So I was just like wet behind the ears. I didn't know anything. It looked great. And then I brought some investor friends to come check it. Hey, check it out. I bought this. I had the keys and everything. I shouldn't have, but I had some connections and people were like, would give me the code. And I was going in there as if I owned it. And what had happened was, everything wasn't inked. The deal wasn't done yet. Very simply, my friends were walking around and they saw a pipe coming out of the ground and they were like, dude, what is that? And then I had to go, they're like, that looks like an oil tank. So I did some investigation, hired some people to do it, and realized that there was a tank that they did not disclose. And under the advisement of everyone I knew, they're like, walk away from that deal. A tank that isn't managed, you don't know if it's leaking. This could be a potential, like a huge trouble for you in your first deal. Don't do it. So I took their advice, lost some money, the inspections and the money down and all that stuff. But it didn't stop me. It didn't stop me from continuing to go and find other deals.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, you use your network again and you were able to actually get out of the deal before it was too late. I know a lot of people that they rush into the first deal or the second deal, and they rush into a deal because they just want to get in their feet wet, like they say, and they lose a lot of money. And you used your network to save you, which was good, which is great. What would you say to other people they're in that situation before the first year, the first deal? What would they do to know that they're doing the right thing? Buying the right property or investing.
Yeah, I mean, just like what we're alluding to and saying here, Doron, is that you have to surround yourself with people that have experience, especially if you don't have experience. We can't do it alone. Working in a silo, you may work in corporate America, you can get your work done and submit it and then it's fine and you collect your paycheck. But if this is your hard-earned money, your retirement funds, whatever it is, you're taking a big risk. So why not surround yourself with people that you can trust that will guide you, potentially kick that pipe in the backyard and go, what is that? Because you don't know what you don't know. And if you try to do this alone, your risk is greater. It's much, much higher because you lack the experience, you lack the knowledge, you just lack information. So you can read all the books in the world, but it isn't until you get into the real world, boots on the ground, knocking on doors, talking to people. That's really, really where the rubber meets the road, and you're able to actually take calculated risks, but then stuff that's not on paper, your network, your friends, the people that you rely on will be there to catch you, if you potentially fall.
Right. And one thing that I think that is important is in real estate, I think in business, that people like you, like me, where we have a lot of experience, we like to share it with people, and we like to help the new people, and we like to show them and make them aware of things. So it's a power that you can use. Just network with people that have experience and do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So everybody's talking about recession, and just recently we heard about a few banks are collapsing. Is there something that you do in your business to mitigate risk and to know that you're doing a good investment?
Yeah. There's many, many things. So I'm trying to think how I could share the most valuable information that's relevant right now. And that is, so I have mentors in business and in life. And I'll say the life part of it is we do our best. My family and I, my wife and I, try to be diversified. So we're not, investing all of our capital into real estate. We also have money in stock, right? And then we also invest in other people's deals, passively. We also lend capital, as a hard money lender. So there's some diversification there. So if one thing gets hit, which our stocks did, because we invested in a lot of those banks that are not around anymore, unfortunately. Wow. But we still have our real estate. We still have the money that we lend to fellow investors, and then I have my business. So now, if we talk about my business, I'm 100% active in my current business. That is my job until I have an exit, until I sell it to VaynerMedia. That's what I'm manifesting. And speaking of one of my mentors, I call him unofficially James Orsini, who's the president of VaynerMedia Sasha Group. I was talking to him the other day, and he said to me, I'm going to share this with your audience, that when you need capital, Erik, don't look for it when you need it. You had a
Right.
great year last year. That's the time to look for capital. Same goes with real estate investing. If you are having an amazing year and you feel like you're unstoppable, you're bulletproof, that is the time to get a hold of capital when you don't need it. Now, when he told that to me, obviously, but I was like, what? Yeah, that I needed to hear it in the moment that I needed it. And just remember, when things are going really, really well, let's start to leverage those relationships with the banks. Let's start to leverage those relationships with hard money lenders and start finding when, and having those ready in back pocket. So when we're in a time that we're experiencing now with the collapse of some of these banks and whatever else is to come, you have a HELOC or you have something that you can access to as a backup plan.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and I love that. Always when you're on the high side, on the you're everything going well for you, that's where you need to plan for that day that everything's going to go down. That's you don't want to keep it away from you. You want to embrace it and say, okay, there things not always going to be that good. I want to get planned and do that. Yeah. So yeah, I love that. All right, so we're going to move to the final round of 4 success questions. We want to have our viewers be more successful. So I want to hear what are your 3 success habits that you do in your life or your business?
3, to keep it simple, it's really mind, body, and soul and spirit, right? It's keeping your mind right, because that could be your worst enemy. Getting up in the morning, especially for me, and developing really bad habits throughout corporate America. And I don't blame corporate America. That was all on me. I could have gotten up early. I could have done exercises. I didn't do that. I could have not, gone out drinking and partying on the weekends, sometimes on the weeknights. But mindset is so huge. Like when you have to build for yourself, there's a level of high discipline that comes from developing habits. And if you don't develop these habits, you won't have success as an entrepreneur. But it does first start with mindset. I had to do a lot of reprogramming, literally, by listening to Tony Robbins, listening to Jim Rohn, listening to Eric Thomas, like all these people that would just tell me, you could do this. You're capable. You're amazing. Like all these things gets the wheels turning, and then gets you to a point where your mind is so focused on this one thing, and that you can do it, because that's what it needs to get it done. And then the second thing, so that's mind. And then so body, I didn't take care of myself, Doron, all through my corporate career. Like I was up and down in weight, drinking, smoking, doing the things that surrounding myself with this, not necessarily the wrong people, just the people that I grew up with, and that was the norm. Go work your butt off, 40, 50 hours a week, and then go celebrate and take off and take your mind off things and decompress by drinking alcohol and smoking and doing whatever it is. Well, those things didn't serve me when I became an entrepreneur. So surrounding yourself with the right people is critical, and getting your body right and getting into the habit of exercising. Because the one thing that I love what Eric Thomas says, he's a great motivator, is that when motivation runs out, because it has an expiration date, discipline needs to kick in. And discipline only happens when you've created habits. Like I get up for the gym, like this morning, dude, I didn't want to get up. My wife's like, why'd you get up at 6 o'clock? It would have been 5 o'clock. The time changed here. But I'm like, I got to go to the gym. Like, I don't want to, I hate it. But once I'm there, I'm just doing it. I'm like, I'm doing it. So the body is so crucial to get anything done. You can't get anything done if you have no energy. And then the spirit, I've recently found faith, especially during the 2020 times when everything got really dark. I found my faith again in God, and it really drives me. It gives me my why outside of my family, and a greater purpose in life. So when you confuse those 3 things, I think that's powerful.
Right. Yeah, those are great success habits, and anybody that want to evolve and get better and better and better needs to have those habits in order to get better in his life. So in their life, yeah, I love those. So the next one is there a good resource that you use in your business, people that can use for their to get better?
Yeah, I surround myself with entrepreneurs. A lot of them have much success. You know, we're talking multimillionaires, decamillionaires, just people that are doing things that I'm hoping to do eventually. And they kept asking, and I kept hearing throughout my network, do you have an operating system for your company? What is your operating system for the company? I'm like, what are you talking about? Do you have an EOS, Entrepreneur's Operating System? And that is coming from a book called Traction by Gino Wickman. So that is a text-heavy book. I'm a creative. I don't necessarily like to read text-heavy, textbook type of books, but I learned a ton from there, right? And I mostly gave that to my operator, who is now, we can classify her as my integrator. So if you go back to the other book from Gino Wickman called Rocket Fuel, that's my jam. Like that really talks about the visionary and the integrator and how those two are necessary yin and yang components of any business, so that you can have the visionary use his time or her time in their highest and best use of their time, their superpower, and lean into it, and then take those ideas and have the integrator create them, produce them, make them producible assets, so that the visionary is doing and staying in his lane or her lane, and then the integrator is doing the same, and together they can build a massive company or massive whatever portfolio, whatever it is you're doing. So those two books from Gino Wickman, massive.
Yeah. Yeah, I love those books. I read them, and before I read them, before I even knew about them, I was like, "What is this? There's so many things that you need to do in your business. You're this and that." And then I read them, and like, "Wow, there are people that already did that, that thought about that, and they have a whole system for that." So I was like, "Wow," opened my eyes to it. So I love that. Yeah. So what are your 3 tips for people to make money in today's economy, or real estate, or in business in general?
Yeah. So take calculated risks. I mean, risks are necessary in life, depending on your tolerance and your risk tolerance. If you're going to be an investor, if you're going to do what I did, which is leave corporate America, leave that cushy job. I was making well over 6 figures, Doron, and I left it because I didn't have fulfillment. I didn't feel I had a greater purpose. So I took the risk, and my wife, thank God, said, okay, let's go take that risk together. And she blessed me to go do that. And we had a couple of years of savings. So if you're going to take risks, just make sure that you're planning it out. So a plan A, a plan B, even a plan C, so that when it gets to the point in time where you realize and constantly check on this list, constantly look and reevaluate where you are, because if you don't, you could end up realizing, oh my goodness, I ran out of runway and now I have to go get a job, or I'm running, I took too many risks, right? And now I have no money, so you have to write these things down, and you have to have someone around you that's going to hold you accountable. That's the second thing, is surround yourself with people who are way smarter than you. Mm-hmm. If you have an ego where you don't want to be the dumbest person in the room, then that's the first step. Work on that. Because you have to have enough humility. And this took me time, enough humility to understand that you are not the smartest person. You don't know everything, and that you have to surround yourself with people that are smarter than you and doing what you want to do, so that this way you can learn through osmosis. You can learn on the job. I was this 40-something going to real estate meetings at night, trying to learn from 20-somethings, these millennials that were flipping homes. And then I would stay. I would be the first there and the last to leave. Why? Because I wanted to get in their good graces. I wanted them to trust me. And I would put up chairs, and I would clean and wipe tables. Here I was, this executive, used to be in corporate America, making a lot of money, and saying to these kids, teach me how to do this. I want to learn. So it's eating humble pie. And it's when you get to that point where you are ready for the risk, make sure you have calculated risk. And then, surround yourself with the right people that can help you. Yeah.
And willing to do things that other people are not willing to do, and go the extra mile to do those things. And those are really good tips for making money. Definitely. So my last question for you for the day, basically people that have full-time job, corporate America, or busy professionals, and they want to invest in real estate, but they don't necessarily want to leave their job. What can they do today to actually invest in real estate?
Well, they should find people like you, people that are doing the deals. They've cut their teeth. They've got experience. They've been in the up and the down cycles. They understand what it takes to get an asset performing, meaning, whether it's a multifamily or it's a commercial building, whatever it is, someone that has experience that you can leverage so that you have to recognize, and this was me in that situation. I didn't understand that you either have one of two things, time or money. If you have both, great, you're winning. But if you have little time because you're working in your job, then you have money, hopefully, because you have a well-paying job. Well, you can give it to someone like Doron. You can give it to someone who's a syndicator, someone that can take your capital and put it to good use and then pay you dividends like stock. But the big difference is you can go shake hands with someone like Doron versus like going to the CEO of Apple and saying, "Hey, I'm an investor. I own Apple too." Tim Cook, you're most likely not going to be able to get that call. Or have a say, or influence the company in any way. It's more of a passive, definitely a passive opportunity. Yeah. But yeah, that's what I would recommend. Finding people that are doing what you want to do and supporting them in that project.
Yeah, network and find the people in your in your area, in your group, and invest with them. Yeah, definitely. This was amazing. If people want to get in touch with you and use your services or pick your brain, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah. So I have something for your audience. And whether you're into podcasting or not, or you want to be a guest on a show, or you want to start your own show, if you go to my website, Erik, E-R-I-K, Cabral.co/guide, I have a free PDF there that gives you all the tips to be a great podcast host or a great guest on a podcast. All the things that I've learned over the years, I compressed into these 2 pages. So I would recommend you go there. And then you'll also see an opportunity to schedule time with me if you are interested in launching a podcast. We do these, we launch podcasts, dozens and dozens over the years for real estate investors mostly. But then also for folks like at VaynerMedia, marketing agencies as well. But yeah, it's fun, and hopefully you'll reach out.
That's great. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm sure my audience will love reaching out to you and get in touch with you and hear your experience and maybe use your podcast services. This was amazing. I'm so happy that I got to have you on the podcast and share your experience. And thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Doron.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Successful Investor Show. If you're enjoying this podcast, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. That helps others find the show, and we greatly appreciate it. Once again, thank you for tuning in, and we hope you'll join us on the next episode of the Successful Investor Show.